Hi everyone, welcome to our very first episode of Beyond the Game, a podcast by ShePlays. I'm Jay, the co-founder of ShePlays, and today I'm so excited to be speaking with Sofie Feller. Sofie is a Chinese-German rugby player who's been making her mark on the game. From captaining her high school team to playing at Harvard to making her debut for the Germany Rugby Sevens team, Sofie's journey is all about breaking barriers. We're going to be talking about her experience in rugby, her love for the sport beyond rugby, and her creative projects like her Roots project and Da Collection. Sofie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, super excited to be here. And thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, okay. For those who don't know yet, could you tell us a little bit about your background? Maybe where you grew up and how sport came into your life?
Yeah, happy to. So I actually grew up in Shanghai. My mom is Chinese and from Shanghai. My dad is from Germany. I was born in Germany, but then we quickly moved to China, and that's where I spent most of my childhood. I went to an American school, which is why I have an American accent, even though I'm half German, half Chinese, and have a German passport. And then I was actually I didn't join sports until I was maybe 14, 15 because I used to do a lot of dance. So from ballet, contemporary, everything, I was mainly a dancer. I was super into like acting as well. And I only found sport later on, but it really it really kind of changed my relationship with my body and has had a huge impact on my life. So I actually started playing rugby at Shanghai American School, which is always a bit interesting because it's an American school in Shanghai that has a like contact rugby program for girls, which I think is amazing and more schools should have that. And that's how I yeah ended up playing rugby. I thought I was pretty decent at it, so I started going to a few summer camps in the US, and then I got recruited to go play for Harvard women's rugby, which I never really considered Harvard as somewhere I wanted to go until that happened through the rugby opportunity. And yeah, overall, I think the theme is rugby has given me a lot of opportunities that I never thought I would have in my life. And then traveled to a lot of countries after graduating from Harvard to play rugby with different rugby teams. And currently, I spent the last few years in Hong Kong, but now I'm living in Dubai. And yeah, still playing rugby here and still playing with the German national team as well, because that's where I have citizenship with. And yeah, overall, rugby has been something that, has been a core pillar in my life so far.
Okay, that's interesting. So I have a question. Before rugby, you said you were in dance. I also know that you played soccer for a while. So what felt different about rugby that made you stick with it?
I did try to play soccer. I played soccer, I think it started my freshman year, and played until my senior year. But it was always kind of like a side sport that I just liked to play. I was definitely better at rugby than soccer. Um, I think well, soccer to me, it's a sport that if you don't start playing when you're quite young, like handling the ball with your feet is quite technical. And that was always a bit of a barrier for me because I started quite late. Whereas rugby is a sport, it feels super free because you just like tuck the ball under your arm and you can run as fast as possible without kind of like a skill hindering you. So I would say that's my favorite thing about rugby compared to soccer.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to use your hands than your feet, definitely.
Yeah, though I also tried to play basketball and I was definitely better at rugby than basketball as well because of the ball handling skills.
Oh, I see. Do you remember the first time that you thought, I want to see how far I can go with the sport, like with rugby?
I remember when I switched to playing rugby, I actually had to quit the dance team at my high school to join the rugby team because it was at the same time, it was the same season. I had a gut feeling that I could be good at rugby. I don't really know why. I was watching a rugby game and I was like, "Oh, that looks cool. Like, I want to try and I think I might be good at it." I've always been quite like muscular and strong for for a Chinese female growing up in Shanghai. And I thought, hey, maybe, having muscular legs would actually be good for this sport. And when I played, I actually played well. And I think when I started going to the US for more training and more camps in the summer, that's when I was getting picked for more like high school U18 teams. That's when I was like, oh, okay, I think maybe I can go somewhere with this and maybe play college rugby, and that was my next goal.
Oh, I see. So you were going to like camps in the US when you were in high school, right?
Yeah.
Was it like difficult being away from your family, like going to a new environment? Like, was it a daunting experience?
I mean, obviously the US is quite far away from Shanghai. And I think it was quite exciting as like a 16 to 18-year-old during that time. I knew I wanted to get better at rugby and um, spend my summers like in a productive way. I also made a lot of new friends through rugby, so I wouldn't say I was definitely always nervous, but something that I like to live my life by is like the saying, be scared and do it anyway. I
Hmm.
was nervous, I was scared at times, but I think doing it anyway and putting myself outside of my comfort zone then made me grow as a rugby player, but also as a human.
Oh, I see. So, fast forward to 2023, you made your debut for the Germany Rugby Sevens, but your journey to playing for Germany wasn't very straightforward. So, I know that you couldn't play for China without giving up your German citizenship. You weren't eligible to play for the US, and you would have had to wait a couple of years to represent Hong Kong. So, what was it like navigating all that uncertainty when all you wanted to do was play for a country?
Wow, you're the only person who has like said back to me exactly correctly the whole journey. So you've definitely done your research. Um, Yeah, no, it was my rugby journey has been very up and down, and there have been a lot of barriers along the way. A lot of things that are completely out of my control, right? Like it doesn't really reflect me as a rugby player and my skills or my capability because it's something to do with my citizenship. Um, the story that I always like to tell is when I think around when I was 16, 17, and starting to take rugby seriously, every rugby player's dream is to, go to the Olympics. Every athlete's dream is to go to the Olympics. And so I remember I had on my wall in high school, like Tokyo 2020, huge letters on my wall. And I would put on my wrist tape, whenever I play rugby, like T 2020, because I was a huge believer in like, okay, this is my dream. I'm gonna put it everywhere. I'm gonna say it and work towards it. And when I actually was trying to work towards it, I was running into these, barriers that you just listed out.
Mhm.
I was not eligible to play for the US, and all of my friends were playing for kind of the US U18, U20 camps and tournaments. And obviously, I felt super left out because I also wanted to do that. Um, and then when I did some training with a Chinese team who they eventually did go to Tokyo 2021, I guess, because of COVID, it was postponed. Um,
Uh-huh.
I would have needed to give up my German passport because of you can't have dual citizenship with a Chinese passport. And so, yeah, those were tough decisions to make. But I think looking back now, I was weighing the kind of pros and cons of each decision, talking with my family, with my dad mainly, and making the decision with the information that I had at the time. Obviously, there are times where, for example, last year when I was watching the Paris 2024 Olympics, you have a lot of friends who are there and playing. You see the Chinese sevens team who are there and playing, and you kind of feel in your heart like, oh, did I make the right decision? Like that was my dream, right? I want to be there. Um, but I think I like to believe that the universe or whatever higher power people believe in has a bit of a plan for you, and it's always kind of bubbling something. And when I played, actually this summer, I just got back from playing with the German sevens team again.
Mm-hmm.
I think our goal now with Germany sevens is to work towards Brisbane 2032 Olympics. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's completely realistic that if we work hard, we can get there. And so new dreams pop up, right? It's not Tokyo 2020, but I think it's always worth kind of going hard at a goal or a dream. If it doesn't work out, you'll find another way, another opportunity.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. Um, like situations change. There's things out of your control, but you just have to keep finding ways to keep doing like what you want to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, the only way to lose at anything is to give up. And I think if you keep going, um you'll realize that maybe the dream that you always had is has changed a little bit, but you achieve a different dream that you didn't even know that you had. So, yeah, just keep going.
Yeah. So, I know that like as you were saying, a lot of athletes dream of representing their country on the big stage. So, when you finally wore the Germany jersey for your debut, what was that moment like for you?
It was I remember I made a post about this on Instagram. I think it was the feeling of like finally committing to a country because for so many years I didn't know what to do and I felt kind of lost. And I was also procrastinating a little bit because even though I had German citizenship, I didn't know if I wanted to live in Hong Kong for another 5 years and then be eligible for Hong Kong, or whether I should wait and get citizenship somewhere else and then try to play there. So I think finally committing to playing for Germany and then it being a really cool experience, being able to, be on the field and play against World Series teams like France, Spain, Team GB, um, Ireland. It was like a full circle moment, I think is the best way to describe it. And I think that's when I realized like more so this year when I was playing for Germany again that maybe I was meant to go on this path to play for Germany because rugby is still a growing sport in Germany, and we need to encourage more and more girls to play rugby in order to uh, grow the sport in Germany, but also to reach my personal goal of going to the Olympics in 2032. We're going to need more and more support from the union and the country itself and just popularity of rugby.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Like, I think that there's a long way for women's sports to go. So, yeah, I definitely agree on like needing more support so that the teams can achieve what they want to do. Yeah.
Yep.
So, like you said earlier, your path has taken you all across the world, from Germany to China to the US and many other countries. So, what is it like to adapt to new environments each time, both on and off the field?
Yeah, I love this question. I think my favorite example to use is I went to play rugby in France around August last year is when I first went. And that was probably the rugby experience that I was most nervous about because I'd never been to France. I don't speak French very well. I learned a little bit in middle school, but overall I don't speak French. And and I kind of knew that the place I was going in France, the north, it gets really cold in the winter. So it would be like
Mhm.
raining and gray and cold. And I currently live in Dubai, so that's exactly the opposite of like sunny, warm Dubai. Um, so I knew I was putting myself into an uncomfortable environment. But I also knew that if I could get through that, it was a bit like you want to strength test yourself as an athlete, but also as a person. I knew that if I could get through something very uncomfortable like that and enjoy myself as well, I could only come out stronger and a better rugby player too. So overall, the experience was amazing. I made amazing friends. It's super cool when you go into a new culture to play a sport and realize that, wow, we don't even speak the same language, but we're able to play a sport together. And I still keep in touch with all of those friends today. So I'd say like yeah, it may seem uncomfortable at first, but the more you go through it, the stronger you get, and then you get really amazing friends and experiences, memories through doing those types of things.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like when you're at a foreign environment, I think it's really important to have friends there that you can like really rely on, especially because like you're not very familiar with like all the culture and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Mm. Okay, so now I want to ask you. So since you're doing like full-time work right now, right, for an esports company, so um you've had to juggle rugby with other endeavors throughout your life, for example, academics in school and now work. So, what do you think is your approach to finding that balance between whatever you're juggling with rugby and also your personal life, like having your me time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I've always had to balance rugby with something else. Like, unfortunately, for a lot of even, the more elite female rugby players than myself, a lot of us still juggle either like a side job, part-time job, or coaching. It's really hard to make a full-time living just playing rugby for female rugby players. And I'm sure for a lot of other female athletes across other sports. And so you kind of make do, right? I'm really lucky because I have a work from home, fully remote job in gaming and esports, in marketing and partnerships, which I really enjoy doing as well. Um, it's always about prioritizing what you need to do for the day and time management. I would say the more you add to your plate, the better you need to be at it. I try to keep myself very organized with, writing to-do lists, using post-it notes. I kind of change my format of how I keep track of what I need to do every couple of months. Um, and I think, yeah, overall, I'm a pretty like productive, organized person. So in a day, I might be able to have my rugby trainings, gym, but also get what I need to get done for work or for when I was at Harvard, all my assignments and everything. So yeah, I would say it's important to have some downtime through it all to make sure you don't get burnt out. But what makes it easy is that I don't see rugby as like work. I really like going to train. And so gym, rugby, conditioning, running, anything like that is actually my me time. So yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, finding the balance between your sport and whatever you're doing, it does take time. But I think that, like what you said, being able to manage your time well is super important. Um, would you have like any advice for, say, student athletes who are listening to this? Like, what is most important in your opinion in order to be able to um, balance everything well?
Student athletes in high school, in college, I would say the most important is maybe having a bit of a plan for your day. I'm guilty of not always doing this, but I noticed that the days where I have like a plan of action of what I want to get done, um, that's super duper helpful. I also I also think that being an athlete, a small tip that I really like to share is um there's this like productivity method called the Pomodoro method where you put like a
Mm-hmm.
timer for how long you work, and then you have your like 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest. And I've actually started to, only when I really feel chaotic, I start using that because it kind of feels like a workout. Like when you go to a gym, you have your like 25-minute AMRAP, right? If you're doing like a CrossFit gym session. So 25 minutes of like as many reps as slide making as possible, or like my essay writing, whatever I need to do, and then 5 minutes of rest. And so when I have that timer on, I see that I have to keep going. If I were in the gym and the time was still going, I would still have to keep rowing or skiing or whatever exercise I'm doing. So it kind of, I think for a lot of athletes, it's kind of like a workout, but instead of for your body, for your brain. And that's a little productivity method that I like to use sometimes. But honestly, it's about exploring what works for each person. That method doesn't always work for me either. So having like a toolkit of different things that work for you is probably a good thing to build.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It seems like you've learned a lot from being an athlete that you can apply to like outside of being an athlete, like just being a person in general.
Yep, for sure. I mean, I always say rugby, especially rugby, is a great metaphor for life because, you get tackled onto the ground, you're on the ground, and it hurts sometimes, and sometimes you get like tackled by, sometimes it's such a big tackle that you're on the ground in pain and you need like 5 seconds before you can stand back up again. But the most important part is that you do stand back up again. And I think that's, a metaphor for life, is that life is gonna tackle you to the ground sometimes, and you need to be able to stand back up. And even if it takes a little bit more time to stand back up, you will stand back up.
Yeah, I think that's a very like meaningful way of wording things. Um, I think that one of the coolest thing about you is that you're not just a rugby player. Like you mentioned earlier, you also do CrossFit, and I saw that you just did a High Rocks event recently. So, what do you enjoy about finding fitness outside of rugby? Like, do you think it's important for athletes to find enjoyment in like fitness and sports outside of their main sport?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. Rugby, if you get kind of sucked up into an only rugby environment, you kind of learn to maybe measure yourself, based on how good you are at one sport, rugby, instead of, you as a person and human being outside of rugby. And I think I had to learn that because rugby is also a sport where you get injured quite a lot. And when you're injured, if you tie your entire identity to playing rugby and you can't play rugby, then it's going to be very difficult during that time that you can't play.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to make sure that, I sometimes will say like there's rugby Sofie, but there's also CrossFit Sofie, and there's also like entrepreneurship Sofie. And depending on whether I'm in season or out of season or injured or not injured, I kind of rotate through which Sofie is like the priority Sofie. Um, and CrossFit Sofie is, when I first moved to Dubai, I made a lot of friends through going to the gym here and doing CrossFit, because the fitness industry in Dubai is really, really, really big. Whereas the rugby, like, there aren't as many rugby teams in Dubai as, for example, in Hong Kong. So I kind of, yeah, I shift my identity based on the environment that I'm in and what I'm dealing with in life at the moment.
Yeah, I think like what you said really resonated with me, like trying to have an identity beyond your sport as just an athlete. Because like when you let yourself get defined by just your sport, it's kind of difficult to find meaning outside of your sport.
Yeah.
Like if you're not doing well in your sport, then like you also can't let it impact you like at such an emotional level that it like affects other aspects of your life. Um, I'm actually like personally going through like a long term injury. Like I tore my ACL. So like what you said like really, really made sense. Like trying to have like passion outside of just your main sport.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm lucky I haven't had an ACL injury, but I've had so many friends who have gone through ACLs, and I always say to myself, like in the back of my mind, probably at some point in my rugby career, I will have a long-term injury, maybe an ACL, and like I'm almost mentally prepping for it starting now. I don't know when it would happen, and hopefully it never happens, but it's really important to mentally prepare myself for, okay, if I cannot play rugby for a whole year, what am I going to pour myself into? And I think you've also seen I've come out with a few like passion projects of mine. If I can't play rugby, that's where I'm putting my energy into outside of work, of course. Um, and I also have the gym, if I'm able to already move around a bit, to go to the gym and do some CrossFit movements, like upper body if I can't use my lower body. Um, so yeah, I think it's super important, and I know it's extremely difficult to go through your injury right now, but trying to find ways that little goals or things that motivate you. And I'm assuming this project ShePlays is something that takes up your time right now while you're injured,
Yeah.
and like pour yourself into that, because you'll be back on the field playing again, and then you'll have less time to do this. So it's
Mhm.
almost like a good opportunity to try something else.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. Speaking about the gym, I know that you co-founded Girls Lift Girls with your other co-founder, Gemma Ashworth. So can you share a little bit more about what Girls Lift Girls is about and what inspired you guys to create this community?
Yes. So Girls of Girls is probably one of those projects that when I first moved to Dubai and I didn't have as much rugby stuff going on, we started because I was going to the gym a lot, doing a couple of fitness competitions, CrossFit, and there are a lot of girls in Dubai who go to different gyms. And we kind of just wanted to create a space where everyone could connect with one another and, casually talk about topics like body image, mental health, and other things that females can go through. Um, I think the main goal behind Girls of Girls is that we want to create an environment where being strong and being like having muscle is normal. Because, typically for women, it still is not as common to have big muscles. I still get stopped from time to time being like, oh, what sport do you play? Like, oh, your arms are really big. What do you do? And I take it as a compliment, but I think it just goes to show that it's not the norm yet if people are stopping and pointing it out. So what we wanted to create is honestly just like a big WhatsApp group of women across fitness, across sport, who can come together. And at first we were just doing like casual dinners, and then we moved into doing bigger workouts or panel discussions, workshops, and it's all about kind of this topic of normalizing strength for women. And now we have communities in Dubai, in Hong Kong, in Brisbane, and Sydney, and we're hoping to grow, maybe in Singapore as well. We'll see. But yeah, it's been a super fun project to work on. And I think a lot of women can resonate and they've joined the community.
Yeah, if you do expand your community to Singapore, I'll definitely try to take part as well. It seems like such an important thing as a female athlete to have a proper community around you, like proper support from other female athletes who relate to the challenges that you may go through as a person in sport.
Yeah, no, I love having that for sure.
Yeah. So, now I want to move on to the topic of your other passion projects. So, a while ago, you did work on a project called Roots. You had scrunchies made from fabric from the traditional Chinese dress qipao, and you wore these scrunchies to your rugby games that season. You also started your Da collection clothing with designs inspired by how your Chinese cultural heritage intertwines with your athletic side. I really love the name Da. It means big in Chinese because it challenges the narrow beauty standards in Asia. So I want to ask you, how did these ideas come about, and what was it like to like? I know that Da collection is a bigger project than your like personal roots project. So how was it like coming up with this idea and actually making it happen?
Um, yeah, I mean, Roots was a project, a very small project that I think I just wanted to do something and actually I have a lot of ideas in my head all of the time and I a lot of those ideas never never get executed. And so Roots was a project that seemed kind of easy, like okay, let's just go make some scrunchies out of the cheap how material and I'll wear it during my rugby games when I play for Germany. I never turned it into a bigger project like being able to sell it or anything like that. But for me, it was about taking the photos, sharing it with the world on Instagram, and telling that story of how um, being a Chinese female, you have kind of these strict norms around what beautiful looks like or what feminine looks like. And growing up playing rugby or being more muscular and having big legs, big arms, that I never felt like I fit into that mold of like a beautiful feminine Chinese female. Um, so I wanted to bring those two things together. So being Chinese, but also playing rugby and on the field there aren't a lot of options with like how you can customize like your jersey or your socks or anything. So I thought a scrunchie was the best way. And I still have those scrunchies and I still wear those scrunchies to this day when I play rugby because it's a symbol of kind of bringing, the barriers that I want to break and the point that I want to prove. I'm bringing it onto the field with me. Um, I think someday I probably will resurface that project as, being able to, people have expressed interest in buying the scrunchies and stuff like that. It would be really cool to see more young girls in Hong Kong or in mainland China wearing the scrunchies as well. So maybe I'll make it happen someday. The Da collection was another idea that stemmed from the same theme of I want to bring being Chinese and gym, CrossFit, rugby together somehow. And it was actually the backstory is that I wanted to design Chinese characters into the back of a sports bra. And I'll share more of the behind the scenes journey at some point as well on my Instagram. I realized that designing a sports bra is very difficult. It's very technical. And so I thought, okay, everyone wears a t-shirt. Like you wear a t-shirt to go to sleep. So why don't I start with a t-shirt and just put the da character on the front of the t-shirt? And I just wanted to design a t-shirt that I would wear and maybe some of my friends would wear. And it turned into a larger project because I think a lot of people started resonating with the message behind it. And not just people in China or people in Asian countries, but people in the whole world started resonating with this message of, hey, we're women, we're strong, we take up space, we play sport, we have muscles. We've been told that we're too big or too this or too that our whole lives. But why don't we flip the narrative and actually embrace being big or being taking up space? and being strong and all those things. So I think for a lot of female athletes, but also just for a lot of women in the world, it's a message that has uh it's time that we kind of promote this message and people relate to it.
Yeah, I agree. So, you mentioned that there's still a lot of stigma around women in sports, muscular women, especially in Asia. So I did read that earlier in your sports journey, you did like try to avoid lifting too much because there's the idea that if you lift too much, you'll get too bulky. So, but when you went to Harvard, then you started like lifting more and really like learn to embrace your strength and like redefine femininity. So I want to ask you, could you share a little bit about like your journey to being able to embrace yourself as a strong muscular woman when like there's like outside noise telling you that it's not normal to be like a muscular woman basically.
Yeah, I once again, it's a very up and down journey. I would say where I am today, I'm 25 now. I would say my the kind of flipping the narrative journey started when I was maybe 20, so 5 years. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to untangle a lot of things that you've been surrounded with growing up, your environment, the people around you. Like what even is a compliment to you is something small, but growing up, that's what we learn, like what is a compliment versus not. And I think when I ended up in Hong Kong during COVID, I started going to a CrossFit gym, and I was still playing rugby, but I was going to a CrossFit gym. And I remember I would try to avoid lifting weights that were too heavy. I remember going like and using the 10 kgs instead of the 15 kgs, even though I knew I could lift the 15 kgs, because I didn't want my arms or shoulders to get bigger. And it's kind of crazy reflecting on that now because I definitely don't do that anymore. But the journey that it's taken to get to where I am today has been honestly a lot of talking and sharing with other women who feel the same way, and having a good environment of people around you who value you for more than the way you look. And they value you as a person, they value you as an athlete. That started making me value myself and my body for what it could do instead of only the way that it looked. um we live in a world where it is like aesthetics and the way we look is seems to be very, very important. And that's, we go and buy makeup, or we shave our legs, or we buy nice clothes. Like it's very aesthetic focused. But sport and training and the gym is somewhere where I think, especially for women, you start playing a sport, you start going to the gym, you realize how good it feels to move your body, and like the endorphins that you feel after a sweaty session. And you start valuing your body for what it can do. So I think rugby played a huge part in me loving my body more. CrossFit as well. I started appreciating how strong I could be and lifting weights and really loving the feeling of, getting a max rep on a back squat or something like that. And then how that helps with my rugby playing too. So I think at the moment, I just think my body has a lot more purpose than the way it looks. There are definitely some moments, I would say, usually when I'm wearing like more like girly clothes, like dress up
Mhm.
clothes. I typically feel more confident in my body when I'm wearing like sports clothes or a rugby jersey, because I look at myself and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have an athletic body. I look like an athlete." But then when I'm wearing like a tight dress or like a poofy dress, I get a bit more self-conscious about my muscles and how like, "Ooh, that doesn't really look like how it's supposed to." But I think it's also because of what we're exposed to, right? Like if all these luxury brands or like dress brands were using muscular female athletes as their models, then I would think it looks normal for me to be in a dress. But because I see like rugby players in rugby jerseys and that's what my body looks like, that looks normal. So it is also kind of a call for action from bigger brands and like the luxury fashion brands to make sure they're also using more muscular body types in their kind of ads on the streets, on the buses, wherever you see advertisements.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a long way to go for like for there to be a good amount of representation of like muscular women like in media and in like branding as well. I remember like I was at physio once and my physio said, "Oh, cause like during ACL we had one leg is gonna be like a lot smaller than the other," and he said, "Oh, your like good leg is super big." Like he meant it in a good way, and I did take it in a good way. But I think that a lot of athletes, like female athletes, have a long like journey with being able to change their mindset from um like wanting to look like good like um with like based on society standards and changing that mindset to, oh, I want to focus on what my body can do. Like if you're playing a sport, how can I train myself so that I can be strong and I can perform well in my sport instead of like trying to fit into the beauty standards that society has given us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um So, I want to ask you, as someone who's been paving the way in rugby and beyond with your passion projects, redefining femininity, like in the public light, are there any female athletes who inspire you? Or like, for example, when you were growing up, did you have any specific female athletes that you looked up to?
Um, Let me think. Honestly, I have a lot of female athletes that I look up to and have influenced me. I think currently there's a huge wave of like strong is beautiful going on in the rugby world, but also in general, I think in other sports as well. Um I think like obviously you've probably heard of like Ilona Maher and other rugby
Yeah.
players who are promoting this like very similar message. And I think it's needed because you can't just have one person saying it. You need like many different people in different parts of the world trying to normalize it in order for this like wider movement to really push through. Um, so I would say like there are definitely big voices in rugby and in other women's sport that kind of they create that ripple effect for me to also continue working towards this like I guess this momentum, this movement that we have the to normalize sport and strength for women. But there are a lot of female athletes who, like teammates of mine or people that I used to go to the gym with, who I have those like daily interactions with them, and they're the ones who have really helped me on my journey with my body, and who also like push me to keep going when I'm like, oh, why am I doing all this extra project stuff, right? Like, oh, I would have so much more time if I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
make t-shirts here and there. And I think it's really important to feel reassured by my close friends around me that like, hey, what you're doing has impact, so keep going at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like as a person in sport, it's definitely not a like one person journey. There's a lot of other people that really like when they support you, and like sometimes when you're like in the moment, you don't really see the big picture of what you're doing. So it's really important to have other people that are able to keep you grounded. Speaking on Ilona Mar, I saw that she recently got the award for Breakthrough Athlete, right? And I did see on your Instagram, you did talk about it. And I think it was really meaningful. Basically that, it's really important to have athletes, like, representation of female athletes. And, Ilona Mar has definitely, become a lot more popular. And I saw the other time there was this young girl who flew to Ilona Mars game to be her mascot, and the joy in the young girl's face when she saw Ilona Mar standing right in front of her, this is real, female athletes exist, and you can grow up to be a female athlete. I think that idea is super important, and I think that is definitely work to be done, but there's also work that has been done in order to improve the media representation of female athletes. It's super important for young girls in sports to have role models to look up to, so that they know that oh, their dream, they can really achieve their dream. It's not just um a make believe, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you, so if you could talk to a younger Sophie, what advice would you give her? Is there anything specific that you've learned along throughout your rugby journey that you think that if your younger self heard it, it would really benefit her?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, I know younger Sophie would have been caring a lot about the way that she looked, and feeling quite insecure about having bigger legs or bigger arms, and trying not to lift too much or run too much to make her legs bigger. And I think what I would tell her is like just be proud of the strength that you have and the muscles that you have, because they're going to take you very far in rugby. And I think more importantly, I I have like home movies at my mom and dad's place, and I recently watched them of myself when I was like 5 years old, and I laughed when I watched those because I could tell how like wild I was. I was it's funny to watch because I was a bit like chaotic and couldn't sit still as a child. Um and I think people might have been like, "Oh wow, she's really energetic and really a bit wild." Um, but I think I'm without that energy, I don't think I'd be able to do a lot of the things that I'm doing right now. So I would tell her to just like be proud of who you are, and keep going. Keep chasing all those crazy dreams because you never know like where you might end up. And it's better to live a life where you're trying to go shoot your shot and you miss those shots rather than not trying at all. So yeah, that's kind of the stuff I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a very meaningful way of saying things. There's a lot of young Asian girls in sports that dream of playing their sport at a higher level, like being able to represent their country, for example, or playing in a club with good support. So, do you have any advice that you would give these young Asian girls who are trying to chase their dream to play sports at a higher level?
Yeah, I would say just put it everywhere. I'm gonna say do the thing that I was doing where I put Tokyo 2020 on my wall. That's not something that I achieved, or I put it on my wrist tape. Even if it's a dream or a goal that you end up not achieving, you never know like what direction it can end up taking you. So if it's that you want to go play a sport in college in the US or go make your national team or whatever the goal or dream is, write it down, talk to people about it because they can help hold you accountable as well. And I think just the act of I'm I'm not a huge believer in like manifesting and all of that, but I do think there is a lot of power in you put it out there. Let's say you have like a vision board for the year of what you want to achieve. The act of putting it out there holds you accountable to working hard in that direction. So, yeah, write it down, video yourself saying it, or put it out into the world, and then work as hard as you can to keep going. And when you face barriers, just know that, sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you want in order to give you what you need. And maybe that not being the thing that you achieve makes you look in a different direction. And that's actually something that is a better opportunity than the other one. So yeah, keep going. And I would say trust yourself, trust in kind of life also working out to give you the thing that you need.
Yeah, I think that's like a very good way of saying things. Like it's kind of like really believe in what you are trying to achieve, believe that you will be able to achieve it, so that like even if there's doubt, like deep down that there is no way that you're not going to achieve it, because you've already put so much of yourself into what you're trying to achieve. Like this applies to things outside of sport as well. So I think that when you're like super like convinced and you really truly believe like that you can achieve what you want to achieve, it's kind of difficult not to.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, that's why you like put up like Tokyo 2020 on your in your room. I think like I heard this podcast the other time. There's this American soccer player that just retired because of injury. Her name is Tobin He.
Mhm.
And she talked about how when she was younger, she had like a literal like soccer shrine in her room. She was basically like worshipping the sport of soccer and like really believing that she can make it big in the soccer world. And there's definitely truth to what you've just talked about. Like she did make it. She became like one of the biggest names in like US women's soccer. So yeah, I think it's definitely like believe in what you want to do and believe that you can achieve it and just keep going for it. And also when you said that like when things don't work out, just believe that it's like a redirection, not like a failure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So for our last section, we have some quick fire questions. So just like answer whatever pops up in your head, okay?
Okay.
And
Ready.
these are like kind of related to rugby, yeah, but like more fun questions. So yeah. Okay, ready?
I'm ready. Okay.
Um okay. Favorite hype song before a game?
Oh, Can't Hold Us, Macklemore.
Oh, nice. Okay. Go to post training meal.
Oh, if it's like the end of a long sevens tournament, then definitely something unhealthy like Five Guys burgers, something like that.
Oh, this is a good one. Favorite rugby memory so far?
There was a game that I played in France where my dad came to watch and my boyfriend also flew over to watch. And it was right before Christmas. It was the coldest game I've ever played. I was so cold. Um, because it was in December. But we ended up winning that game, and I also scored in that game, and it was
Nice.
just so like cozy. And we went to like the Christmas market afterwards and had mulled wine, and yeah, I always remember that as a core memory.
Yeah, that seems like a really special memory. Next question. If you weren't playing rugby, what sport would you do?
I actually, before rugby, I really wanted to become a soccer player. I just was not that good at soccer.
Uh, oh, I see. Um, Favorite place that you've traveled for sport?
I was just in Croatia for the Rugby Europe 7 series this past summer, so just a couple weeks ago, and it was beautiful. Like there were mountains, ocean, beach, super nice.
Okay, last question. Your dream matchup. Like, is there any player or team that you would love to face?
That I would love to play against?
Yeah, that's right.
A player that I would love to play against, or she's on my team.
Oh, like a player that you want to play against, or like a national team that you want to play against.
Oh, I mean, I would love to. I don't know if I would love to play against the Black Ferns, but I think it'd be pretty. I know a couple of girls on the team, and I think it would be fun to play against them, but I'm pretty sure whatever team I play with, we would lose. So,
But yeah, for sure. I think they're like such a strong team, especially with Portia Woodman, like who
yeah.
came out of international retirement. Yeah. So that's all for our quick fire questions. Thank you for answering them. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today, from rugby to Da Collection to Girls Lift Girls. You've done so much on and off the pitch, and it's clear that you're not just building your own path. You are helping to make Asian female athletes more visible, so that these young athletes have someone who looks like them that they can look up to. We hope that anybody listening to this podcast feels seen and inspired by your story. Um, we'll definitely be cheering you on as you grow in rugby and beyond. Thank you so much, Sophie.
Thank you.